We took the walk-in spur above Copper Draw because the trees were perfect for hammocks. 2 straight firs at 3 paces. By 11:42 p.m., the dog was aloaf by the fire ring, our quilts puffed, and the ratchet straps sat at neat 30-degree angles like diagrams in an outfitter guide. Wind ran steady from the south, enough to make the fly clatter. At 12:01 a.m., a click came from my strap. Not the wind tugging, the handle of the buckle moved 1 notch and stopped. The hammock tightened, lifting my heels an inch. I sat up and watched the tail of the strap. It had shortened without slipping. Jess said we'd set it crooked. I loosened and reseated both buckles, then filmed the setup with my phone. Wide shot, both trees, a grease pencil line on the tail to mark length. The dog sighed, and the wind hummed. We lay back. 12:06. Click. The tail slipped forward to the grease mark and past it like a tape measure taken by an unseen hand. The hammock lifted me to that exact flat back angle you chase and never get right. I recorded a voice memo just in case. Second click at 12:06. It settled. The wind didn't change octave. Limbs never banged. At 12:14 there was another click. One, then a second ghost click with no movement. The buckle's handle had twitched, but the strap length held. I checked the bark. A shiny rub had begun to form where the webbing lay. I placed the phone on a time-lapse rock stack facing both trees, 1 second interval, then dragged my finger across the ratchet teeth to show their count. We lay still. 3 minutes, nothing. Then 12:21, click, and the dog's ear flicked at the same time my heels lifted. Something was tightening our sleep, notch by notch, like we were being fitted for a cast. I got out with a headlamp and a folding ruler. From tree to buckle, the run measured 2.02 meters. I said it out loud for the voice memo. I drew a second grease line on the tail where it hung now. At 12:27, while I stood there, the handle moved itself down and back up, 1 clean click, as if a thumb had pressed and let go. The strap chirped against bark, and the ruler shifted to 2.00. No change in wind, no sway in the trunks. We loosened both hammocks completely and tied the long tails to the carabiners like belts. No more ratchet to touch, Jess said. We lay down. The dog watched the dark with his eyebrows. 12:34. Click. Softer, but there. I held my breath. The carabiner didn't move. The handle moved anyway, a useless motion in a system no longer bearing load. The hammock's angle stayed put. The sound didn't belong to any part doing work. At 12:49, a streak of cloud crossed the stars, and the wind shifted cold. The dog tucked under Jess's quilt. I checked the time-lapse. Dozens of stills of 2 trees, 2 straps. Nothing. I scrubbed and found it at frame 207. The handle of my buckle dipped and rebounded by itself, a strobe-clear beat between frames, and the tail's grease mark crept forward 2 millimeters. We slept light and left at first blue. Back at the truck, I ran the audio into a Spectrum app. Each click sat at a faint 3000 Hz spike, perfectly spaced 6 minutes apart except the phantom double at 12:14. The strap webbing felt warm where it touched bark, though the air sat at 48. The proof fits on one screen. A time-lapse still where the handle moves with no human, and an audio waveform where the 6-minute metronome marks us like a heartbeat. The grease line on the tail smudged permanent into the fibers. When I hang that strap now, it squeaks once at exactly 12:06 a.m. wherever I am. The creek at Cedar Hollow runs under a plank footbridge just below the group site, a 20-step span of wet boards with a handrail of gray pipe. We crossed it at 10:18 p.m. and counted 21 out of habit. The upstream sky kept throwing heat lightning behind the ridge. The air smelled like iron. At 12:03 a.m., when the storm was still all light and no rain, the bridge popped once. A single footstep sound, board flex, nail squeak, wood memory, without anyone on it. The dog stood and faced the handrail as if something heavy had just stepped off. We waited. At 12:12, it popped again, 2 steps this time, 1 beat between them. Jess said it was the temperature swing. I wanted to agree. I set the phone on the rail in voice memo mode and clicked the screen off so the mic wouldn't ride gain on the display. At 12:21, 3 steps. 10 minutes later, 4. Each set started near the far shore and ended at our side, as if someone crossed toward us and stopped just shy of the gravel. I dusted the first 2 boards with a squeeze bottle of flour from the bear bag kit, feeling dumb and very awake. The dog did not cross the bridge again. He lay with his chin on paws and watched the rail. At 12:41, 5 steps came, the last landing right in the flour. We aimed our lights. No prints, not even scuffs. The flour lay like new snow with a clean rectangle where the board ends meet. Nothing pressed. I set the GoPro on a log at the bridgehead and framed it wide. 21 boards, our side in foreground, a glow of river behind. The air cooled. Fog roped low above the water. I whispered the count into the mic with each set, because the math itself was turning into the scariest thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like a tutorial for how close. At 1:01 a.m., the 6th set came. The first board rose and tapped like a knee-jerk. The next flexed, then the next. 6 in order, ending at our toes. Jess held her hand over the rail and said, "Feel that?" The pipe vibrated, a low insect sound in metal. We pulled the flour back with a twig and dusted a heavier line across the last 3 boards. In the GoPro's red tally light, we could see dust drifting like river mist. 1:10, 7 steps, no prints. The dust bounced and settled. I filmed the handrail up close. There were faint rub marks at forearm height the whole length, like thousands of passes had polished it to velvet. I pressed my wrist there, and the pipe thrummed at the same pace as the steps, slower now, like someone heavier was taking care. At 1:19, 8 steps sounded, crossing the full span and not stopping. The last board knocked twice, as if a heel had hung half off and found it again. Jess backed us away along the gravel to where the dog would stand with us. The creak sounded like a big chest sleeping. At 1:28, we got 9. The sound passed us, plain as boots, then ended with a soft purl in the water downstream, as if whoever crossed stepped off the end and kept going on the air. The dog whined and licked his nose and stared into the middle of the span where nothing was. Dawn put the bridge in friendly color again. We found our flour like a chalk line. 2 boards had the pattern of dust disturbed only where wind eddies would hit. No prints, no smears. At the kiosk, we asked a ranger if expansion made the boards talk. He said, "Sometimes," then frowned at the clip and the clock. The proof is ordinary and wrong at once. A phone memo with steps in sets 1 to 9, each exactly 9 minutes apart, and a GoPro frame where the rail trembles with no one touching it while dust hangs still. On maps, the creek's footbridge is a straight line. At night, it counts how close you are to being the last still.